Hello to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Feel Good with Me. I'm your host, Idan, and today we have a legend among us. And I will tell you a little bit about my interest in personal development and self help for those of you who know. So, especially when I was at university and even before university, I started to think, how can I become a better person, a better man? This was around 20 years ago, probably 20 years ago. And then TED Talk became a big thing after a few years, and I was very honored to see a talk about men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and also about some hormones and how it's affecting us all and making us feel more in our masculine or feminine and more happy, more relaxed, more stressed. And at the time, I had a relationship, and I thought, wow, I never realized when my girlfriend is screaming, because if I would be screaming, that means something. I haven't screamed probably since I was 15. I'm in my early 40s. So, and she was screaming every so often, and I would think, okay, she's really distressed. I give her space, as I would expect to have space. But then when I watched John Gray video and later read his book, I realized that when I go and give a hug and tell her, sweetie, I'm here, we're going to get through this, she would just whisper, thank you. And the change in her would be phenomenal. And later, I saw lots of friends, my parents, lots of people, how this book can really change. And it was so basic. And I thought, why is this not taught in schools when we are teenager and starting to explore the other, I guess, gender, but not necessarily, but just being in a relationship? That was such a powerful. So, John Gray, thank you so much for coming to be here. It's an honor. So, some of our audience have fibromyalgia, ME, like me, but we have a lot of people just in generally interested. And I would like you to tell us a little bit about your background, where did you grow up, and eventually just go into how you got into relationship therapist and therapy in general, and then how this brilliant book came about. It's like something that it's like a, it's like a lightning must have been for me. How I would say it. So
I I I'm so grateful for your introduction. Thank you so much for your appreciation of my work. It was like a lightning for me. It was like a revelation. A little bit about myself. I grew up in a family of 5 boys and 1 girl, so there was a lot of masculine influence. My parents had kind of the traditional happy couple. My father was a good provider, higher middle class, and my mother had 7 children, so I guess it's 6 boys and 1 girl. Get the numbers off. So, a lot of masculinity when I was growing up, and I was very much I went into martial arts, and I was a little entrepreneur. I worked in a restaurant. I had a paper route, all about a young guy. I was into making money, was fun, I wanted to be independent. I bought my own car, and so that was all good. And then it was rock and roll, sex, drugs, rock and roll, when I was growing up in the '60s. And then after Woodstock, it was a big, huge weekend of sex, drugs, rock and roll. It was fantastic. And after that, I completely crashed. I mean, just completely crashed. And part of the in the environment at that time, the big rock group was the Beatles. And the Beatles had just been in India with an Indian guru, and they said you can get high without drugs. So I thought, okay, I like being high, love, and all that, but I don't want to take drugs. So I went to be with the Maharishi. I kind of wanted to meet the Beatles. They had just left, but I became his number one student. You might say that because later on, there was a poster of me and 3,600 TM centers. It was called Transcendental Meditation. He was a big influence in bringing Eastern ideas, meditation to the West. He started doing the research on it. I became his personal assistant. I taught his teacher training programs. I was enamored with him. Okay. And he was a celibate monk. So I became a celibate monk. So I had no interest in nothing about relationship. It was all about my relationship with the divine, my full potential, developing myself to be the best person I could be. And then at around 28 years old, I then realized, okay, I've got it. I found myself. I was ready. I didn't know what I was going to do. but I just felt, okay, I'm going to go back to America and I'm going to find my way. Often we teach the things we need to learn, and I didn't know anything about relationships. So I came back and I started teaching spirituality and meditation to homeless people because I was homeless and I lived homeless. It was terrible. Okay. The most terrible moment was when we were all sitting around the beach with, living on the beach, and it was a tough life. These people live a very tough life, and they were drinking beer, and they said, "John, have a beer. We love listening to you talk, but we have no idea what you're talking about." And that moment, I kind of felt like I was doing good in the world, but I realized what I had to share was not for those people. What I had to share, I had to find my people. And so then I got a job and started becoming financially independent and started having sex with girls. And then I realized that, I was kind of like a Don Juan. I told them, I'm not ready for a commitment, whatever. But I realized very quickly that women need to feel safe and secure a committed monogamous relationship. So I saw the value of that. And I married, I tried to marry a woman named Bonnie. And but I didn't really have a job fully, couldn't support myself fully, and I was in that process of kind of growing up at 28 years old financially. And so she said, I wanted to marry her, she didn't want to marry me. So I married another woman who already had a house and she was my assistant. I started teaching classes on my interest. My interest was on relationship. I'd taken a few relationship classes and I thought, well, gee, I can do this. And so I started doing that. That relationship lasted 2 years, and that was it. What I learned from that relationship is that how men and women were different, and that I was sort of too far on my female side, she was too far on her male side, and so it stopped the passion. Bonnie was my first woman I wanted to marry. After this first marriage ended, I went back and married Bonnie, and we were married for 34 years and happily married. And this is where I learned all the things I teach in Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And that came along with becoming a counselor. I was teaching a class on making love work, and people would want my advice on it. And I got a PhD in counseling at the same time while I was developing my career as a counselor. And what I saw is that in counseling, women were always misinterpreting men. One of the first revelations I had, and then I'll finish this introduction, is the man is talking, then the woman is talking, and kind of go back and forth, facilitating conversation. And she would talking about some of her things that were bothering her, and the man would instantly look away. And when he looked away, she would say to me, "See, he doesn't care about me at all. He doesn't love me." And I know as a man, he's looking away because he does love her. He's trying to figure out, how am I supposed to respond to this? What am I supposed to do? And so that was the first thing, is realizing that we men, we do things that women misinterpret. And what men didn't know is women will have reactions and we don't know how to interpret them. And I loved you reminding me of the example of, from my own marriage, one day of my wife screaming and being upset. And I just sort of want to get out of the house, just give her space, because that's what I want. Just give me space, give me space. And she said, "No, I want you to know why I'm upset. Stay here with me." I said, "Okay, okay." Just didn't know so many things we don't realize instinctively, because many times what she needs is the opposite of what I might need. And so I expanded on that topic, and I continue 40 years later, learning new things, to make relationships even better.
For I just want quickly to say that it sounds like Bonnie was a very, very special woman. I have experienced to some degree those special women that take me from here in life and put me and raise me and help me to grow in ways which I was not able to by myself. And it sounds that Bonnie was that for you. She took you, you already had the entrepreneurship, you had a curious mind, you've been to India. But I think what you're telling me, and obviously you have a very good observation. So I guess if you can look at what she wants, and I think you had a very special team and relationship and woman there. And I think if you can say something about choosing the right partner, how yeah it can how it can change your life. So that would be
Y-
great.
You know, when I talk about my wife and everything I learned, it wasn't that everything was perfect. is that we got through it, and in getting through the issues, and I had a partner who was willing to get through the issues and be honest and authentic and expressing what her wishes were, what her needs were, how she was different from me. So I learned a lot from her. I'd say I also learned a lot just from being a counselor. One of the things when you're a counselor and women come in your office, if you know that, well, the first thing I learned is that as a counselor, if women would come in with problems, if I would immediately suggest to them how they could solve the problem, they didn't come back. But I learned, I hear women saying all the time, my partner doesn't listen, he doesn't understand. So I thought, all right, I'm going to change my style of counseling. I'm going to listen first. I'm going to ask questions first. I'm going to take time to understand more. And then I would give suggestions. And then women would come back again and again. And sometimes I would just listen the whole time and help her understand her feelings better, not give a solution, but just help to understand feelings better. And that, and what I created was a little ritual I do at the end of counseling sessions or seminars when I teach them is, and how did you benefit from this? What did you get out of this? Or what did you learn? But how did you benefit from this session? And I would be shocked. Women would often say, "Oh, it just felt so good to be understood. You really understood me. I really felt you understood." I'm just going, who cares about being understood? But, for me, if I have a solution, appreciate the solution. But, just me listening, how could that be of great value? Well, for women, many times that is of great value. It's just the ability to freely express. And what I learned about women is that, well, I'll give you an example from counseling and then from Bonnie. Okay, so I wasn't always the best listener in the beginning. I'd interrupt with solutions and whatever, or I'd get defensive if she was complaining. And I decided I'm going to give her the same attention that I give to my clients, which is to ask questions, just ask questions and let her have the freedom to speak. So I still remember it now that you're bringing this up. Bonnie wanted to talk. I said, okay, let's talk. And so she began to share, and I say, "Well, help me understand that better, and tell me more about that." And I do a little bit of active listening. "So you feel this and this?" And she says, "Yes, yes." And then she actually talked for a good 50 minutes. Okay, just like a counseling session. So I was listening to this whole time, but she wasn't. See, it's easy as a counselor because it's a woman talking about her husband, not me. But in this case, my wife was examining our relationship and examining me and how I had changed and what she needed and I just said, just contain it, John, just contain. Don't say anything. Be like a therapist. So I asked the question. And then at the end, my thought was, now do you feel completely heard? She says, yes, I feel so heard. And then I'm ready to say, so would this be a good time for me to tell you how I feel? Because all my feelings were defenses against everything she felt. It's like she says, "Well, you're never home." Well, you never home either. You did. It's, every time you attack a man, he'll have a response back. Okay, it's just the way life is. You argue about something, I'll have something to argue about. So I said, would this be a good time for me to tell you how I feel? And I really had like a lot of defensiveness inside of me. I was ready to point out to her that she was wrong, that she was overreacting, that this was not a mistake, or explain myself. I had all this ready to go. So would this be a good time to share with how I feel? And she said masterfully, she says, no. And I said, what do you mean? Because usually if I'm going to listen to you, you should listen to me. And she said, no, this isn't a good time. And then, and I said, well, when would be a good time? And she said, I don't know. But right now, I just want to bask in the sunshine of your love. That stunned me because when you listen to your wife complain to you for an hour almost, the last thing you're going to think is that she feels loved. To me, everything she's saying was she doesn't feel loved. She doesn't feel loved. And she said, I just need some time to bask in the sunshine of your love. And then I'll let you know when you can talk. I said, okay. I was like, I was literally stunned and shocked. But then I saw her go, and she's usually the cook. She went into the kitchen and she started making dinner. And it was literally like it was a Walt Disney movie with little birds flying around. And she started singing. She was singing some song while she was cooking. I just felt like she just expressed all this negativity in my mind. And now she's as happy as can be in the kitchen. And I noticed that with her happiness, my stress levels started to come down. Okay. So it didn't come down all the way. I was still rather defensive and angry about some of the things she said. I need to clear this. But I'd say about half of it went down. And then the kids are there for dinner. And then I kind of like connected to everything. And then that night, she put on some beautiful little sort of sexy outfit, and I'm going, "Oh, she's in the mood for sex." Okay, okay. And we made love. I woke up, went to sleep, everything, And then the morning when we woke up, she looked at me with a smile and she says, yesterday you said you wanted to talk about something. This would be a good time. I had nothing to say. I had nothing to say. And then I realized for myself, all of this defensiveness inside of me was just that I felt like I had to explain to her that she was wrong in order to feel love. But once I felt loved by her through making love, there was nothing to say. And since that time, I remember contain. You don't have to speak. Just listen, and you'll have a wife who loves you more. And then you don't have to argue with her so much at all.
What an amazing story. And I can, because of my experiences with relationships, it's really is like that. It's amazing. Of course, it's difficult to generalize, but it's majority of the time, it's really, and it's the same with me. I always want to talk back and give my point of view, but we're not playing on the same field, kind of. They playing in one game and or field, and we are on another, and we just need to understand it, and then it's way easier. And I
It
think
gets easier. It's hard when we don't understand it, and it gets easier. And even, I wanna say, even it being easier, it's still hard. Like, if I was to go, and I'm not a big guy that goes to the gym, but during the pandemic, I went to the gym and had nothing else to do, so I would work my muscles. And when I worked my muscles, some people need a lot of muscle work, I don't. But when I did the weights, it is suffering, okay? There's this moment if you wanna build your muscles, but you're choosing it. You choose it because you know it will be good for you. So sometimes my wife is upset or she's in a bad mood, and it's hard. It's hard on me because I wanna feel she's happy, we're all getting along. And listening to what's going on is a little suffering there. And the way I hold it is like, this is like carrying a heavy weight. Afterwards, I will feel so good. When I carry the weight of her unhappiness, I know she's going to feel so good afterwards as well. So it kind of dispelled this idea that everything should always be easy and comfortable. Life isn't that way. And I shouldn't expect it to be that way in my relationship. But the magic phrase for me that I tell men, and it's helpful just to have a word for it, is containment. Just contain that reactivity, be patient, and know that this is going to help her. And anytime a man feels that I have a solution to the problem already, we can have less resistance and less suffering.
I totally, and for me, when I need to contain in a situation, I studied psychology and also a little bit of counseling and hypnotherapy, is that I write it in a journal. I journal and then I fold the paper or on my phone, and then I feel as if I responded to her, but she never heard, never seen any of it. So I felt heard in the moment, and then, as you said, the next day anyway, it's gonna be
Right,
so.
right. It's just that is such a powerful thing. And, for me, I would get my buttons pushed. I would be so upset, contain, and then I would go and journal my feelings. Okay. And I have a technique in my work, which is, I'll briefly mention it. And it's in the back of all my books, but it's when you're upset as a man, write out all the blame you have. Just sort of, if you have a reaction, write it out, but you're never going to give it to her. You're just listening to yourself. You're being heard, and you write it out, what you're angry about, frustrated about, and then go a little deeper, what I'm disappointed about, or if I'm sad, and then go a little deeper, I'm worried about or afraid of. And it might even be different subject. It could be I'm upset with my wife, but I'm afraid I can't pay the bills. So these are the emotions that go along with stress. Whenever we feel stressed as man or woman, these emotions are always present. So you let yourself feel the emotion, feel like the hard emotion, anger, then a little bit softer emotion, then fear, and then regret. What's my mistake? How did I contribute to this? Then I write out what I want. And then what I'm grateful for and what I'm proud of, and just focus now on positive feelings. And so that is a powerful tool, journaling your feelings. I think everyone could benefit from that.
For sure. You said at the beginning of the conversation that you found that sleeping around with various women was not really healthy for them. You found that they were more happy when you committed to a woman. And I can see it. And also with women who I choose to date, if those women who are looking for a commitment relationship, those are the natural women I find attractive to today to look at, to want as well. Women who are very polyamorous and sleeping a lot around, it's as if I can sense it and the lack of commitment. And even though I may not necessarily want a commitment myself, but when, and I know it's hypocritical, why they not support whatever, but I'm just expressing, but I can sense this is a woman who's not committed. She's sleeping around. I don't find that attractive. And she could look quite beautiful, but I'm like, it's like an off-put for me. But then I'm thinking, for me, I also feel very comfortable to date multiple women, not to have a particular commitment. I do, of course, deep down, really want a one woman to make a long life together. That would be ideal. But until I find that woman, there were phases in my life when I dated at university, later on in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was very comfortable with that. Is that something you can comment about? Maybe the benefits you think for men in particularly to commit? Because even though a lot of men I know don't feel the need to commit and the benefit, but I think the benefits of committing is amazing. We can grow together, stability, mental health. When I have a long-term partner, just to have this counselor at home that I can always offload what happened to me and she can offload to me. And we're more motivated to cook healthy together, things like that. But is there other things from your work that you can touch on that?
Wow, that was beautifully said. I appreciate everything you just said, and I can reinforce it's a kind of what you've described is hidden in our culture today, the importance of commitment before having sex. And I'm not even talking about marriage. Okay. That could be some people's value system. But what I found from my own personal experience, learning from it, which is that certainly it was enjoyable. It was fun having sex with this girl and then this girl. At one point, I had 6 girlfriends after being a monk for 9 years. But part of it was practical for me, just for a fun story here, is that I didn't have any money, but my parents gave me a credit card for my old car. So all I could do was drive from one town to another. And because I'd been so popular in the TM movement, all these people knew me. So it was very easy for me to meet women and have them invite me to their homes to have dinner. So I was getting food. I didn't have any money and often would end up making love because, when your heart is open, you're very attractive to women. To sustain that attraction, though, commitment is so, so important. And what I found, even for me, that not all men are aware of this. If you have sex again and again, you lose interest if there's not a deeper connection. And what allows that deeper connection is what you very wisely said, which is the woman is aware of her need for connection. See, as a man, I have a male side and a female side, which my books talk about. And just briefly, let me mention it, which is for a man to feel good, he has to be making 10 times more testosterone than a woman. For a woman to feel good, she needs to be making 10 times more estrogen than a man. So it's a biological difference for those that, I didn't understand that, in my first marriage that we lost the passion very quickly was because she was a therapist as well. So she was always asking me how I feel. And so I was more on the female side talking about me and my feelings and so forth. And she was kind of like helping me. And in our life, she had a house and she was making more money than me. And so that was very helpful for me to get started, but it killed the passion because there wasn't a feeling like she was receiving what I had. She was, and she would say at that time in her life, she was very much on her male side. So when a woman, as you just said beautifully, when a woman is aware of her need for commitment, she's aware of her feminine energy. Feminine energy is the part of us that wants security. that want stability, that want someone to be there for us. And it's very, very unfulfilling for a woman if she's on her female side to have sex with a man and he's not committed to her. Now, why is that so? And this should be part of education for teenagers who are having sex, is that girls don't realize that when they have sex with a guy, it's a biological reaction that her body will have of attaching to him. Okay, so she will become more attached to him. It's oxytocin gets produced, and that oxytocin is it's literally like he's mine. But if he's not committed to you, then he's not yours. Okay. He's my boyfriend. But no, he's thinking about some other one. And what happens for males is the oxytocin is very strong briefly for a man. And then what happens with all that high oxytocin, and there's also estrogen, these are these two really feel good hormones of love. Estrogen and oxytocin work together. They don't, if you don't have enough estrogen, oxytocin doesn't bond, but usually the whole sexual experience raises estrogen and oxytocin. So there's this bonding that women feel. And for men, after they have that bonding, and in a playful sense, that's where a guy will turn over and have a cigarette, like in the movies. It's just like you're suddenly become disbonded to her. You will tend to detach, where she becomes more attached. So if she's more attached, and he's detached, it hurts her soul. I mean, basically, it disconnects her from feeling the need for commitment. It's too painful to feel the attachment. So, a lot of women, if they've had lots of sex with men who didn't have commitment to them, it becomes easier to have sex and have it be casual because the more she has casual sex without commitment, the more disconnected she becomes to her female side to avoid feeling the pain because you feel pain, you feel drained, you feel empty, you feel despair when if a woman has sex without commitment. And what men are not aware of is that when they have sex without first bonding with a woman mentally and emotionally and feeling successful with her, if his only moment of success is having sex with her, very quickly his testosterone goes down. He needs to pull away, become more independent. So he disconnects from her and he can lose interest in her. But if he had taken a little bit longer to build a relationship where you feel there's a commitment and you're not just going to go to somebody the next day or look for it the next day, then what happens is he's able to also grow in his ability to stay connected after having sex. So that's a little bit about the importance of commitment. And if you look historically, to a great extent, historically, commitment always came before sex. That was something that women would make sure there was commitment before sex. And so what we had back in the 90s, I remember another popular book when Men Are From Mars was so popular was that the name of the book title was he's just not into you. And the reason that was a book title is because so many women would ask the question of therapists, why didn't he call back? We had sex and he doesn't call back. He disappears. A phrase for it today, he ghosted me. I don't know what happened. It's so traumatic for a woman to have this deep level of intimacy and have a guy completely detached. And then women start forming these beliefs like all men are narcissists and they don't care. And really, the big part of it is that both of you just don't understand. You have to build a connection first mentally and then emotionally and feel like, here's somebody I can be fulfilled with, and then increase the fulfillment with sex. It's an add-on rather than the reason to be together.
100%. And what it brings to me, I know few things. Something that I think I heard you speak in one of your about Mantak Chia, the multi-orgasmic man. I think you
Okay.
and I'm thinking one way for people to explore is not to have an orgasm, maybe, because some people it's affect them more, some people less. And I think he talks about there that the hormones don't get completely dissipated, and then you still have that bonding, and you don't need that cigarette or whatever.
That's one of the highest secrets why my testosterone levels as a man are 50 and sometimes 100% more than when I was a young man. Okay, there's various reasons that to keep my masculinity intact. Most men, as they get older, they become more passive. Their testosterone goes down. Their interest in sex goes down. Their erections go away. Yeah, I was shocked in America. 50% of males 40 years old and above use Viagra to get an erection. And after that, they lose interest in it after a while. They lose that whole life force energy, the excitement, the passion, the attraction. And not like I'm walking around feeling horny or anything. It's just when I get in bed with my wife almost every other day, if not every day, I'll have sex with her. And it's wonderful. It's fantastic. It's an expression of love. It's not just the physical, but it's all the physical is there. It's just, it also becomes the art of making love. But a big part of that for me at 74 years old is to understand that you can have orgasms if you're a man, or you can be orgasmic as without ejaculating. Ejaculation is different. I have orgasms. Occasionally I will ejaculate. Usually it's about once a month. According to ancient systems in your 60s and 70s, once a month is appropriate for longevity. They really believe in maintaining the male sexual virility. So you can have sex at any age. You not just when you're in their 70s or 60s or 50s or 40s. You can have it like a young man. You can have that same vitality if you don't ejaculate every time. Montag Chia popularized that, and he showed in one of his books the whole history of how this has always been a part of ancient history for the more enlightened people, was the practice of having sex with love and not ejaculating. And I appreciate him very much. His technique didn't work for me. I developed my own technique. I feel it's more westernized. Their technique is more of edging. You get close and then you pull back. And one of the secrets is, certainly I edge. I know there's a point of inevitability. Imagine you're going from excitement from 1 to 10. Around 8, you can't stop. Okay. If you pull back, it will just create more tension and go. So you have to like shift your attention around number 7. And it doesn't even mean you have to stop. It just means that you have to sometimes what you do, this is the technique that I teach. His is you take a deep breath and you pull the energy up. And what, unfortunately, for Western people, when they do that, everybody talks about Kegel exercises. You're familiar with that term, Kegel. Okay, it's what happens with your muscles when you pull back if you were to stop urinating. But with Western men, what happens is, maybe it doesn't happen in the East, but what I know happens is, what happens with Western men is that when they do a Kegel, they contract their anus. They just contract the whole area. That will immediately cause you to ejaculate. So the technique that everybody's trying didn't work because I was contracting. What you have to do is learn to keep the whole area very relaxed and fluid, and the anus is relaxed, so the energy can go down and then come back up. So it's a contraction. So what people are teaching men to last longer is the very thing that makes them actually come faster. It's like everything's the opposite, and it doesn't work. So the idea is get to about 7, and then when you're at 7, you use your mind and you remember what your body does when you ejaculate. See, when your body ejaculates, your pelvis will speed up. It will just be an like this. The pelvic will relax. Well, that's a release of tension. All ejaculation is tension builds up so much it releases. So when you get to level 7 tension, just shake your body and enjoy the release of the energy, and then you'll come back up. And this time when you come back up, you can receive a little bit more energy in your body, shake it off. And now you're going up, and it's 10 minutes, it's 15 minutes, it's 40 minutes. The key is some people say don't go over an hour. Otherwise you'll be sore down there. There's no reason to create soreness down there. It might not be healthy for you. But you have to be able to do it without having to hold back, but just to release the tension, release the tension. And another way to release the tension, which makes it really easy, is when you're in a committed relationship, you love your partner. The whole focal point becomes less on pleasure and trying to have an orgasm or increase the pleasure. The focus is on, I'm feeling pleasure for the purpose of feeling. And what I'm feeling is the love I have for my partner, and to express that love. And the way it looks for a man to express that love is to say, I love you. I'm happy to be with you. If you're married, I'm so lucky I married you. You're so beautiful. And from the woman's point of view, and this is like an advanced technique that you have to like understand how men and women are different. The female polarity is for a woman to say, do you love me? Tell me you love me. Are you happy to be married to? See, that's very vulnerable. The more a woman is vulnerable, it means she's receiving then what happens is her body will make more estradiol, which allows her to experience higher levels of passion. And this is even for women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who generally have lost the ability to have the spark. Because what happens is their body stops making estradiol estrogen and instead makes estrone. Estrone says, I don't need anybody. So in sex, of course, you need a partner. And if you do something which is a little scary, which is vulnerable, say, tell me you love me. Because anytime you say that to a man, what if he says, of course I love you? It will hurt. So it's a vulnerable act to ask for love. And as long as they understand what they're doing is they're creating more femininity in her, more masculine energy in him. Because often men cannot extend the sex, last long in the sex, because the woman is tight, the woman is closed. You know, if a woman is stressed, even me, I can go for hours if I wanted. If she's stressed, I'll be done in 2 minutes. Okay. And the idea is you want the energy to circulate for a while. Ideally, a good 10 minutes of intercourse is really very healthy, feeling the love. And on special occasions, go longer. I was just visiting Kazakhstan to do a course, teach a class from California where I live. And so I was gone a whole week. I don't always go for a whole week. But when I come back, because I was taking space, I made love with her 3 times that night, the next day, 2 times, the next day, 1 time. It took a while to sort of come back to equilibrium because the whole thing is passion is felt when he's way on his male side and she's way on her female side, then you come together. But when you're together all the time in a routine life, something happens in the brain called habituation. Habituation cancels all dopamine and all passion. So I think the secret of my whole success over these 50 years of teaching these ideas is that my job allows me to go away for 3 days, generally 3 times a month. So I'm out, for some men, they would go fishing or go hunting or whatever. I'm out teaching seminars three. So I'm literally away from my wife and family, which allows me to be independent, which creates testosterone. And then desire is now I want to go to my female side, go to my loving side, my compassionate side, my devoted side. So it's to be able to go from one side to the other. And it's that coming to the woman, desiring her to find wholeness is what creates the passion.
Yeah, it's I couldn't agree more. I lived in several countries. I dated girls that we had a long distance relationship. And when you don't see someone for a month, it's every time it sparks again. And I did it for 3 years at one point, and it was really special, I have to say. So you're right, the habituation, it does have an effect on us, and it's probably a healthy idea, as suggested, to have a separate hobbies, things that you do separately and go away. Really, really healthy. Now I threw you a little bit to the deep end with the sex things, but let me get back to a few more things
I hope it
because
was
I don't want to
okay.
get
I hope it was okay.
it's very okay, and it's something I was very lucky in my 20s to meet a guy that was doing a kung fu, and he taught me all of these techniques. And even though I was at my peak, I was already in my 20s. It changed my life. It was something that again I thought, wow, in the Eastern philosophy, the lucky ones are into martial arts and monks. They learn these things for both men and women, and it's so healthy and so much more balancing. And instead of chasing different women, you can just focus with one woman and have such a big variety of
Yeah,
feelings
if
and
you see,
excitement.
a woman's need to everything for a woman to enjoy multi-orgasmic sex and also to be happy and fulfilled in her life is has to do with estrogen. Estrogen is produced when a woman feels safe, that's oxytocin, that she can depend on someone, and she feels safe not just because I'm in my room and I'm safe, but I'm safe because I have someone to depend on for certain things that are significant to me. So when a woman it was easier in the past where women depended on men primarily for money and they couldn't make money, but that's all changed. When a woman can make money and a man makes money, what does she depend on him for? That's the new level of the most erotic making love actually happens because what she needs him for at this point for the modern woman is communication, commitment, his devotion. It's more the emotional side of it. But when I say that, it can be so misunderstood by women or men by thinking that when a woman's emotional needs need to be fulfilled by men becoming more feminine. No, it's by men becoming more masculine. Masculinity is present, it's quiet, it's action oriented, it doesn't complain, it doesn't whine, it's independent in that sense. And for women, it's a femininity is to be able to be transparent and share those feelings inside, but even still to do it in a way most of the time which never tries to change him. That's the ideal. And occasionally she's going to do that, of course. And if it's not all the time, a man just simply contains his reaction, like you said, and you process it later. And you reflect on, okay, how can I be a better partner for my partner without giving up myself? This is for both men and women. Do I have to change me in order to be loved by you? No. But do I want to change me? In many ways, I want to become better. How can I do that? But for men to become more feminine is not really the right direction. If women and this is what psychology is sort of misleading men and that you need to be more feminine for a woman to love you. Actually, what women today need is more grounded masculinity in a man who is able to provide his actions and his presence, not his complaints and not his sharing of feelings and so forth. You can easily destroy passion by men becoming too feminine.
Well, I'm 100% with you on that. And I'm just thinking in the past 70,
I
80,
can I ask
90,
you a question? I think for everybody, I gave my interpretation of being able to make love without always ejaculating. What was the system that you learned from the martial artist? What did you learn?
the system I learned is to identify the $1 million spots, the beginning. So you use your hands to control just the PC muscle. So that was the very beginning. Now, as you said, rather than contract your anus with the Kegel muscle, there's three muscles that you can do your anus, your PC, and in front of it. So to learn to identify that, and then for me, it works amazing. And the more I practice it, and I go, and sometimes I do a couple of years where I practice it a lot, and I may not ejaculate for 6 months, 9 months, and I'm able to bring that PC muscle so up and I can just have an orgasmic state for going full speed for 10 minutes maybe and 20 minutes, and I will have an explosion in my mouth, in my head, and I bring
Yes,
it down to my mouth like no, and then I can collapse on top of the girl. It's the most amazing whole body orgasm that
love
and
it.
then I can do it again and I can do it for 1, 2, 3 hours, but eventually I will feel nauseous. So I
Yeah.
don't do it. And then
For me, if I
for me,
go, if I'm, no, I'm sorry, I
so
interrupted you. Please continue.
so for me, the Kegel muscle control is really good. But over time, when I learn to strengthen it and control it, there comes like I don't really need to think about it. It just I need to think about the energy traveling through my spine. And then if I'm not super focused, then yes, I can squeeze it and I can imagine lifting it really up. And then nothing will come out. But usually I try to avoid to come past the point 0.7. It's not needed anymore. I can just have the full
Yeah, you just
orgasm.
naturally you know the place, it's coming, and so for me, it's, like, really helpful for men as well to know the pelvic response because that pelvic movement of your body, which can be speeding up and releasing, but not at the point of 10, but at the point of 7, and you described 3 things which I wanna point out. There's the Kegel, which is pulling in, and then there's the opposite, which is going above it, which is pushing down. That's what you meant by the one going forward, is the pushing down. Those are good exercises. Kegel in, Kegel out. You learn to do that and try to do that without contracting your anus is the key to that. And so many times men will just contract the whole area and energy gets stuck. And for me, the way to bring the energy up, always through expressing love. Okay, love, feeling the love, and then verbalizing the love makes it this very big spiritual union. That's the beauty of commitment because you love someone. And there's a little exercise I teach couples, which is not just in the bedroom when they're making love, but practice it outside with once a day or once every other day. If you're in a committed relationship, I recommend like 4 hugs a day where the man initiates these little short 8-second hugs. So you have this connection again and again. You know, a man just doesn't know that when you walk into a room, you should notice your wife. Men will just go in and just be invisible. And No, they want to be seen. Attention is very important to women, generally speaking. And 4 hugs a day, comings and goings, coming and going. And one of those hugs, the woman then says, this is a process, very sweet process. Which, do you like me? And a man says, he shouldn't say, of course, that's not the process. There's little rules here. She says, "Do you like me?" He says, "Yes." She says, "Do you love me?" He says, "Yes." She says, "How much do you love me?" "With all my heart." And then she said, "And do you think I'm beautiful?" That's where a man's mirror neurons, which allows him to feel, will fully open. There's something about it just takes a little foreplay for a man to open his mirror neurons, which allows him to feel the love. So I can love my partner. You can say, "Do you love your partner?" Of course, I love my partner. But to fully feel the love, you have to warm up a bit. And literally, they've seen how men's brains are different and that our mirror neurons are usually closed because we're solving problems. But whenever a man is faced where someone needs his help, she's vulnerable and she's not blaming him, then what happens, his mirror neurons will open, allows him to feel what she feels and to feel his love for her. So that was like a little exercise to warm couples up and learn that it's wonderful when a woman feels confident that she's going to get the right answers and making love to make noises. Of course, you can always just make noises, but noises that have meaning also bring the energy up to the high levels, which of consciousness, which is, do you like me? Do you love me? How much do you love me? Will you always love me? Just a very sweet kind of conversation adds to the ability to feel love rather than focus on how much pleasure am I experiencing? How long is my pleasure going to be? It's more about being able to connect our souls together.
100%. And I also want to say I'm someone who's very easy to, I always give compliments is one of my love language. I like complimenting but I've also noticed I really like receiving compliments as well. And I've noticed the women, at least out there, they're not naturally very good at complimenting a guy themselves. Is that something that most men needs compliments, or is it just something that just some type of men?
Every man that so here's what's interesting. Since you mentioned love languages, it was interesting that book became popular around the time Men Are From Mars. We kind of introduced these ideas. And certainly, but just as a comparison, mine just shot way up. His gradually goes up, and they're still very, very popular because they're not controversial. Okay. When you talk about gender, it's very controversial. And when, if you look at the 5 love languages, and I've looked at the research on it, I've been doing this for almost 50 years. Every woman needs all 5 love languages. And when they do this, if many women will say, it's not just this one, I was this one and this one and this one. I want them all. They're all, and the way the book is structured actually is love language is what is it that your partner needs the most? Okay. So I need more time. I need more compliments. I need more physical affection. I need more of this reassurance. There's a lot of things. And he labeled 5 basic needs that every woman needs. And if you're not feeling one of those, it's because you're in denial. They're all estrogen stimulators. Now, compliments is your word for appreciation. A man needs to get messages that he's appreciated. It's the number one thing. And when you look at the studies on the 5 love languages, they'll say almost 90% of men, they'll say physical. And a physical, that's the physical affection. But what they mean when they say physical is sex. Okay. Because we all need sex. You're getting sex. But in order for you to really enjoy sex, you need compliments. And the word I would use for that in my language is you need messages that say you're appreciated. And every woman needs to learn these. And every man needs what I'm about to say, which is the messages of appreciation. Some are indirect. The most important are indirect. A woman's interest in sex with you means I appreciate you. That's the highest level of appreciation a man can receive. The next is she's happy in your presence. You did something and she was happy in your presence because of something you did. So I brought her on a date and she says, "Oh, what a great date this was. Oh, the food was fantastic." Well, then I feel appreciated. So it's her enjoyment of the food. So the way you compliment a man often is one of the ways is say, "This was the best salad I ever had." On a certain emotional level, he goes, "Yep, I bought that salad for you. It's my salad." On an emotional level, it's like he cooked it, even though he bought it for you. So complimenting what a man provides is actually more powerful than directly complimenting him. However, there's a way to directly compliment him. And here's the power of it. And I teach women in 3 words, you can just raise a man's testosterone. If he's talking, you say, that makes sense. That's it. That makes sense. Another one is, what a good idea. Another one is, well, you're right about that. And if it and women are thinking this all the time, but they don't say it. As you know, anytime you're with somebody, they're making sense, they're a good idea, they're right about that. Amazing. And that was so helpful. These are verbal expressions of what you provide for me. And again, the what I see to be the most powerful ones, I'll see this with a lot of male speakers. Does that make sense to everybody? They'll always say that. Well, does that make sense to everybody? Or does that make sense? That is the ultimate compliment to a guy. And I'll give you a little difference there for women listening, which is I was doing a book tour on one of my books, and this is one where I was away for 3 weeks, and it was a grind. I just said, I'm going to give everything to this tour. It didn't make that much of a difference, but anyway, I remember halfway through or towards the end, I was going into TV station, and this is when everything was TV. And the woman who was there was looking at my schedule, and she looked at the schedule and she said, "Oh, you're doing so much. You look so tired. You should get some rest." Well, that was an insult to me. I look
Yeah.
tired. You should get a rest. But that's what another woman would want, you know? And then a man looked at the schedule and said, "Brutal, man, you're really doing it." That was what I needed to hear. See, so it's a different way to compliment, a different way to appreciate. But so there's a subtlety to this whole Mars Venus thing, which is women feel valued when you sort of feel sympathy or empathy or understanding and give them a little extra emotional support. But men, it can be different.
I just want to say all the time, 100%, 100%. Because I experience these things all the time. And once, and I laugh because thankfully I came across you nearly 20 years ago. So life has been a lot easier for me dealing with the opposite sex. And because I didn't learn it at home, I didn't learn it in school, I didn't learn it with my friends. I literally learned it when I came across your book and TED Talk. I can't remember which was first. I think the TED Talk. But anyway, it was like, wow, it was a game changer. I want to jump
You know, if
back
I
to
can for a moment, I just want to mention to everybody, I do
please.
have a new book on Amazon, which is called For Women Only. It's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, for women only. And of course, for the men who love women can read it. But the theme of this is there's so many single women and there's so many married women that want to be single. And, you know, it's because they don't have the tools, like you're talking about the tools. So this is a book which is how women can bring out the best in a man. Okay. And of course, for a man to read it, he now cooperates with her bringing out the best in him. But so many women would often say, I mean, so many women benefited from these books, right? But some would say, oh, my husband wouldn't read it, so it didn't work. And that's because I was writing to men and to women. So I wrote this book to women only, just so she can not expect her husband that he has to read the book. I mean, thank goodness for the women you're with, that you understand these differences. But for years, I have counseled many times women whose husbands would not read the book, or they were dating a man who's not going to come in for counseling. And it helped them so much, even if the man doesn't read the book. So it's the women that sort of hold the ground for relationship. But as you discovered, when you understand this as a man, so much easier to have relationships with women. Because what happens is you end up making it safe for a woman to be feminine. And when a woman feels safe, that's the number one reason she'll be attracted to a man and sustain her attraction to a man is that she feels safe in his presence. But let me just, I have to back up every time I say these things. I know that some men might hear this to mean, well, then I need to become like a girlfriend to her because a girlfriend is also safe. But a man who's masculine and protective is also safe without being a girlfriend. It's the subtleties here when I say these things that can be easily misconstrued, misunderstood.
I again 100% because for me as I sit as a man, I there are times when I'm listening to her and there are times when I come and say, hey, I got your back, I got your back. And she knows she has a little rock there and he's taking care of things. And you can see, really, you're gonna do that. Like you can see the pressure, the stress goes down. And even though at that point I didn't choose to be a girlfriend and to sit and to talk to her, and to listen, because I can't listen all the time to the same thing. So I just need to say my thing, and then and you can see how different it is. And I want to say I'm going to leave in the description below your book details. I highly, highly recommend to anyone to read it. If you're a parent, if you're a child, if you're a teen, if you're a student, if you're any human, doesn't matter your age, pick up this book, watch his podcast, his videos online. It will make your life a lot easier. And then I want to jump back to in the past 70, 80, 90 years, the world is changing. We have women are equal, thank goodness, and they go to work if they want to. They can do everything what a man can do. And these are very, very great things. And with that comes to some people some confusion. Hey, I'm driving a truck now, or I'm doing some road works, whatever. Now I don't need. So I'm thinking also on women who and men, because some women want a man to be feminine, and maybe some men who likes to be led want a woman to be more masculine. How it is affecting and maybe confusing. And when I was younger at university, I was really to this idea. Yeah, we can be any gender, we can change things, and if it's comfortable for us, it's great. And as I'm growing, and yes, I'm all for LGBT plus 100%. I couldn't support anyone to be whoever they want, but I feel that as a relationship in a straight relationship, if I stick to my masculine, if I do a little bit of my training, if I'm working on myself, and if my girlfriend is working on her feminine side, is doing her thing, I can really feel it's working better. She has something which I don't have, and she's probably looking at this monkey and the hairiness, and she said, "He's got something which I don't have," and it makes this attractive, this magnetic force. So, if you can put some words on that and how to deal with it, because some people can really find it resentful, and also some people we get a little bit lost, and then to rediscover and this kind of way that we are programmed and how to work with.
I like how you said that we get a little lost and it's good to have clarity. And there's no absolute rigidity here or whatever like that. But if I just go to my own experience of when I was into sex, drugs, and rock and roll as a teenager, the theme there was do what you like. Do what you like. Everything's okay. There's no boundaries. And for me as a man, that felt so good because that was actually when you understand masculine energy and feminine energy is doing what you like. Okay. There's just like masculine is energy doing what's necessary to achieve your goals. If you have goals, you have to have significance, contribution in your life. You have to make a difference in your life. That's our male side. Now, women have a male side too, and men have this female side, which we want the balance. And doing what you like, doing what you enjoy, and certainly sex is a big part of that for a man. And you can kind of even see what happens in sex is that you're inside of her. When I want to have sex with my wife, I'm going over to my female side. She's like the embodiment of my female side. But it's no fun to go to my female side if I don't have an erection. That's my male side. And what was interesting for me in terms of actually looking at all the hormonal balance between men and women, as I mentioned before, when men's testosterone goes low and estrogen goes high, that's fight or flight. That's when men want to fight. That's when men pull away from intimacy. It's always hormonal balance. And it's when his testosterone is high and his estrogen is low, he's feeling good. But when his testosterone can be high and his estrogen is high, that's when you're whole. That's your creative state. That's the ecstatic state. And when it was wonderful, I was researching the actual hormonal research that I didn't have in the beginning. Now there's so much research you can find on unique things about men and women's hormones. It turns out the only time a man's testosterone goes really high and estrogen goes really high is when he's aroused and turned on to his partner. That's amazing. It's the only time when his brain opens up where he can let in love, fully let in love. So if you look at the alchemy, since we're talking about making love and so forth, it's at that time where a man's mirror neurons, for those that don't know, mirror neurons mean I can feel what you feel, empathy. So women's mirror neurons are open almost all the time. Men's close and they only stay open when they're needed and they have a solution. So this is why men always want to give solutions. But if he feels blamed in any way, his brain shuts down from being able to feel what you feel. So this is like amazing. This is biology. This is how we're designed to be. And why sex can be so important to men and also women, but I'm talking about men here, is it's the time when his mirror neurons can open. His testosterone and estrogen go to the highest. His mirror neurons open. And if she loves him, that's when her love can penetrate him. This is her masculine energy with love. That's when we can receive her love the most. Then we react to that love by loving her more, and her mirror neurons are open. So she's going to receive more love, which allows her to then give more love at a time when his mirror neurons are open and he can now receive that love and find more love for her. So that's why, without knowing the science of it, that's why we call it making love. You're actually making more and more love. You're charging yourself up to then go out into the world and kind of use up that love to be recharged again. So, and you were talking about this sort of this I forget what they call it, but anyway, you can go from your male side to your female side, but your biology as a man, we now know it's in a more positive, fulfilling state when your masculinity is where it's anchored in usually about 10 to 20 times higher than a woman. And for woman, her femininity is anchored into the female hormones 10 to 20 times higher than a man's. So we have a biological proof of that. Now, does that mean that I can't go to my female side? No. That's the point. When my testosterone is high, I find higher fulfillment by going to my female side through feeling love and needing her and loving her, appreciating her. But I start out by first being independent and then connecting with her. If I'm weak, if I don't have like the knowledge of how to be masculine, to set goals, to achieve goals, to not complain, to do things without whining, these are all part of masculinity. If I don't have this support to be that way, I don't have a role model, I don't have opportunities, I'm out of work, say that's a terrible thing for a man to not have work, not be able to make money. His testosterone goes down automatically. He will tend to go to his female side. He becomes passive, irritable, grumpy, addiction, whatever. And so that's sort of the byproduct of when you feel I can't do it, well, then I'll just have fun. And if you see historically, back in my generation, there was a thing called playboys. A playboy is a guy who couldn't commit, a guy who didn't want to get married, a guy who would have many women, a guy who would drink alcohol and had addictions. He's a playboy having fun. These were typically guys who were born into families with a lot of money. So he didn't ever never had to earn what he has. See, part of being masculine is earning it, working hard, overcoming challenges, building your confidence based on the results you produce. So these guys never had to do that. So their masculinity was weak. They would go to their female side and get lost and just having fun. And they end up in rehab. They end up in suicide. They end up in broken marriages. They end up absent fathers. All these things happen when men are too far on their female side. And you can see for a woman how easy it is to go to her male side. If she the female side, I said, I need help, I need support, I want to find someone who's there for me. If nobody's there for her, she feels the pain of abandonment, the pain of kind of betrayal, the pain of not getting what she needs. Then to avoid the pain, I'll just go to my male side. So it looks like this, simply put. Well, if I can't depend on him to do it, I'll just do it myself. It's like an easy and whenever women say, well, I'll just do it myself, it's so easy to do. Just like it's easy for a man to go, hey, if I can get somebody else to do it, I'll just relax and let you do it for me. And that's called passivity that happens to men. They just go to their female side. Women go to their male side, and it's kind of an automatic thing. So what we see for happening today, because people don't have these skills in their relationships or the self-awareness, we'll see a lot of procrastination in young men. Okay, procrastination is when you're putting off taking action and you just want to do what's easy and comfortable until it becomes dangerous, and then you'll finally do something. That's men going procrastination, passivity, and that then leads to irritability, resentment, and so forth. Women, on the other hand, will tend to go too far to their male side. And so they have the symptom of that is there's my life is so busy, I have no time for me. I'm always giving to everybody else. Nobody's giving to me. I have no time. I'm overwhelmed. I take on too much. And then women say, but I have to do this. And I say, well, you set it up that way because you're on your male side. See, men, have built into us on our male side, we will feel exhaustion and we will be able to turn off our brains. Women, when on their male side, they'll take on action. They can't turn off their brain. Okay. So then they feel overwhelmed and then they start taking on more. Just like a man who's weak on his male side wants to do more fun things, enjoyable things, and yet it's not even making him feel good at a certain point. It's like sleeping all day long, you feel worse instead of like get the right amount of rest and go to work.
The theme of the podcast is 100% for me, but I wanted to touch on something which I'm sure you would agree. Maybe also we expect from our partner at time to be our both our girlfriend and boyfriend and our masculine and feminine needs that we need because I feel the society is the lack of community, lack of social networks, lack of communication, lack of friendships. So where before I would go out with the guys to coffee or to a bar, and then we talk between us and we do things and it work, we social. Where now the work is often on the phone or laptop. You may not say hello to another person. And the same with girls. They are just scrolling the phone. They're not talking to the girlfriends, they're not meeting with them. A lot of people having less and less children. So before mothers would go, women would go with the baby, they would stroll in the park with other mothers. So again, they're with girls, they talk about things when now people are so into their devices and things. So maybe that's why as well we think they had a reasonable relationship. And yes, they had their girlfriends, the male friends. Maybe this is something that we can see the breakdown and the difficulties of dating and struggling and expecting our partner to be so many things to us.
Yeah, it's like the theme of what you're saying is your thing is 100%, but 100% should never be just one person. Women need to have girlfriends. Men need to have guy things. Men have competitive sports or some kind of competition, talking with other guys. What's interesting recently, I've been saying this quite a bit, is how we were trained during the pandemic to live on our computers and we're cocooning and we're staying inside. Women very much need to go out and shop. Okay. They need to gather. It's a gathering thing about women. They need to not necessarily become addicted to it, but they need to go to the store. They need to see the things. They need to touch the things. They need to interact with people. We have energetic fields that feed us. The a company called Heart Math, they actually can measure the energetic electromagnetic field that comes out of human beings. It goes, it's measurable, whatever this field is, 30 feet out. If your heart is closed, it doesn't go out at all. And there's this part of us that's nourished through other people and other types of situations. I'm focusing for a moment on this one of my books is called How to Get What You Want and Want What You Have. And what's unique, the whole book is part of being happy with what you have is making sure that what you have fits all of your needs. If we think in terms of health, we know that we need vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C. So think of it like vitamins. You could have one vitamin is romance, okay? And you could have that vitamin, but you can have vitamin D, but if you don't have the other vitamins, so what? You've got to be whole 100% of all the things that you need. So sometimes if the passion is no passion with my wife, what I do, I'll just go spend time with my guy friends. It used to be I used to go play tennis. Now at my age, I just have a men's group and we just talk about our lives together and what our challenges and problems we're overcoming, talking with guys. Then I come back and I'm attracted to my wife. It's like the need for hanging out with guys, the need for hanging out with girls for girls. And if you don't have that as a woman, you're going to have these unconscious expectations that he's going to fulfill your need for somebody who experiences the same thing as you. And he doesn't. A man has a whole different reality. And you need somebody who, when you're talking or complaining or sharing, somebody's going, yes, yes, I feel the same thing. Yes, I feel the same thing. With a man, he can feel your emotions about something. If you're frustrated, I totally can relate to frustration or happiness or disappointment or worries. I can relate to that. But the things that are causing her to feel that way I may not relate to. A simple example of that is my wife will commonly say, I was late. There was so much traffic on the bridge. I was so frustrating. Okay. Now, for me, there's always traffic on the bridge. So it's not like I'm going to have this big empathetic experience because I go, hey, I'm used to it. Not a big deal to me. And also, I'm a good driver. And I don't even really care that much if I'm a little late. She does. So she talks to a woman who relates to her based on what happened. What women need with a man is, well, we can't relate to everything that's happening, but we can relate to, if you share some emotion about it, I can relate to the emotion. So this is the difference between a man and a woman, how talking has a bit different effect. Now, in this more recent book that I wrote for women only, in the research, I found that there's research showing that when a man experiences empathy of what a woman is feeling, compared to another woman feeling that, it will be 100% from a woman, it's 50% from a man. His limbic system only lights up half of what a woman's would be. So you're never going to get the empathy that you'd get from a woman. It's biological. They can see it. But what will happen that you'll get from a man that you don't get from another woman is that when a man's empathy lights up, his prefrontal cortex also lights up. Whereas for a woman, it doesn't. For a woman and empathy, blood flow leaves the prefrontal cortex, the sort of driver of the brain and being responsible in your life, solving problems, fixing things. Women can just sort of sit there and resonate with what your problem is, feel the emotions of it with you. Men will feel it 50%, and a portion of the blood flow goes to the prefrontal cortex, and another portion of the blood goes to planning action. So what if you translate that, what you get from a man is compassion, and compassion is empathy with the desire to help. Whereas to women, you're just going to get empathy and they both go away feeling better that we're part of the group, we're all the same, you feel safe, but you're not going to have somebody who's devoted to you. And that's what men can provide. They can provide that. And they also provide solutions. And if you tell a man that the solution sometimes is just for you to listen, he can do it. He just has to learn, when she's screaming, don't run out of the room. Just, be present. I'm here. I understand what's going on and be there.
100%. And it's so easy to, once you read your book, it makes so much sense. It's like you're giving us the keys to the game, like you're giving the cheat code to this part of life, and it's affecting in so many ways. So yes, it's I've been very passionate about the work. I recommended it to all my friends, all the people I work with, my family, and I will have to bring you back again. And guys, the next time, if John will agree, I would like us to talk about AI, how the future of relationship will be changing or not, how therapy can help us. Also for people interested in becoming a therapist, it's still a good thing to study, to be a counselor. Also children, how does he see children affecting a relationship, when to know if we're really ready, want children, if it's the right person perhaps to have children with. Dating, shall we have sex on the first date, or shall the woman try to keep it hold for 4 or 5 dates before she lets us into her field? Also understanding maybe some hormones during menstruation, how we can affect some women, maybe some women not, and how we can learn to be more supportive and understanding, and also how to keep attraction over a long period of time, because it's very easy to be attracted to someone to a degree to 3 years when you are in your 20s and 30s, but when you become 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, I can imagine each changes will look different. So how do we work around that? So John, before I let you go, last words for our listeners. And I hope you will agree.
Well,
You can let me know later in an email
of course,
if
I
you will
will
be.
agree. You raised those questions. My brain goes, "Oh, I got a great answer for that. I've got a great answer for that." So, absolutely. Next time, give me a list of those questions so I'll keep my answers shorter so I can cover them all. They're wonderful, wonderful. I'll look forward to it very, very much. And I want to thank you for loving this work and recognizing the importance of helping men and women understand our differences. It just makes the world of difference. I just want to leave with one difference that it's, we've given some good, helpful things today without a doubt. And one is the whole idea of when a man is triggered, he'll become quiet. And what women don't understand is that when a man becomes quiet, it's very different than when a woman becomes quiet. When she becomes quiet, it means the problem is very big. When a man becomes quiet, it's just a reaction to something that's not a big deal, but it's the way he copes with the stress. And if you just let him have his space, act like everything is fine because everything is fine. Since he goes to his cave, he comes out of it and it would be like he's schizophrenic. Women go, 1 minute he's like not talking to me, next minute he's so happy and nice. I can't trust him. Well, the reason you can't trust him is because if you were that way, we shouldn't trust. I mean, women, they're putting on a happy face all the time when inside they're ruminating, they're upset with you, they're holding back from you. We don't do that so much as men. If we pull away and we shine out, we come out with a smile. Relax. It's everything's okay. It's handled. He doesn't have to talk about it. But if you, when he comes out and you are fearful of him, then that will push him away again because now you're looking at the hero. He's feeling like I'm the hero now. I want to love you and be nice. And now you're looking at me like I'm the bad guy. That's another trigger to push him back. So sometimes without that understanding of just ignore him, everything's fine. It's like you started out this interview as a guy, you know, if I'm upset, just ignore me, leaving it alone. And so my wife's upset. We often think, I'll just ignore her, leave her alone. That's not what she wants or needs. But for us, it's what we want, it's what we need, and it's the correct interpretation as opposed to being fearful of us. Because whenever you're afraid of your partner, you're actually pushing them away. Because ultimately, as we talked about, our love languages, messages that say, I can trust you and depend on you, messages that say that I accept you as you are. I'm not trying to like fix you all the time. And certainly, I'm grateful in my life that I appreciate the things you do for me. So these are some of the good takeaways from today. And a real pleasure to meet you. I look forward to doing more interviews with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, men are for Mars, women are for Venus. John Gray, thank you so much for this wonderful episode.
Thank you.